Welcome back to Light Beyond the Ashes, the podcast where science meets spirituality and awakening becomes embodied. I'm your host, Amber Humphrey. This week, we sit with Angie Harris, a soul who's been listening to the whispers of the divine since she was a child, even when the world around her didn't yet have language for what she was experiencing. From seeing and feeling spirits all around her to asking God the questions no one wanted to answer, Angie's journey led her through devotion, confusion, and eventually deconstruction, not from faith, but from fear. What unfolded wasn't a loss of God, but a deeper remembrance of Source. In this conversation, Angie shares how reconnecting with her father before his passing cracked her heart wide open and how his transition didn't end their relationship, but transformed it. Today, he stands beside her as one of her most powerful spirit guides, helping her to step fully into her gifts that she once tried to quiet. We talk about awakening to oneness, about unconditional love that doesn't demand belief, behavior, or belonging, about the peace that arrives when you stop searching outside yourself and finally remember who you've always been. And just when this conversation couldn't go any deeper, Angie opens a galactic channel for the collective, a message for this moment in time, a reminder to choose love, to release fear, to trust that we are right on time, exactly where we are meant to be in the midst of this great awakening. This episode isn't just a conversation, it's a remembering, a soft landing, an invitation to come home to yourself. If these stories help you feel seen, supported, or expanded in your own awakening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so this light can reach exactly who it's meant for. Welcome back to Light Beyond the Ashes, the podcast where we talk about all things spiritual awakenings. And I'm so excited to have my friend Angie Harris here on the episode today. She might be known as the Soul Alignment Mentor on TikTok or Instagram, anywhere you might find her. I know that I stumbled upon your TikTok page on the FYP, and you were channeling divine beings of light and getting, ancient wisdom and sharing it with the collective. So I immediately resonated with your soul. So, Angie, welcome. I'm so excited to learn more about you today.
Yay. It's so nice to be with you, Amber. Thank you for allowing me to share. Mm.
Absolutely. So, tell the world a little bit about yourself, of who you really are and what your background is in, because I think it's going to tie into our conversation today to, what you went to school for and how you
Yeah.
kind of got here.
So I've been many different people in this lifetime. I think when you go through the journey of awakening, you can look back at your life and see different versions of yourself and how each version played an important role for you
Mhm.
at some point. But I came into this world just really unique and interesting. There is stories about my mom having a visitation from a UFO about 8 months but when she was pregnant, and then throughout my life, I continued to have, moments of seeing strange things and experiencing strange things, so came into the world just different, and I think a lot of us relate to that, we don't fit in, we might be more drawn to, the stars than we are to our own planet sometimes. Came into a lot of trauma. My, mom and dad divorced when I was very young. My dad married quickly after 6 months of leaving. My mom remarried a narcissistic man who ended up being very abusive, and a lot of abuse happened in my between about 6 years old to about 16 is when we were with him, and in that time I still was very strange, very spiritual, contemplated things beyond the human logic. It's so interesting to think back to being a child and thinking about things beyond the human experience and just being intrigued by it. Um, and then that kind of led me on this journey. Like I always knew since I was little that I was going to be some type of a teacher or some type of person that helped people, and I can look back now and see all the things I went through were kind of prep, even though from the human perspective, they really sucked. But from
Mhm.
a spiritual understanding, I gained a lot of truth and understanding about how to support other people through their healing process. And so that led me eventually around age 16 because I was questioning. I knew hey, I'm here to do something. What am I supposed to do? I ended up finding myself being invited to church. My family was not religious. We didn't go to church, but because I was like always contemplating something is beyond my understanding, I thought, okay, the answers are here. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to learn about God. I'm going to learn about Jesus. Everything's going to fall into place for me. And so I jumped in full force. Like I still remember the very first time I ever went to anything. I think it was like a youth group thing,
Hmm.
and it was in this barn. Like, that's all I remember is we were in a barn, and there was this person speaking. I don't even know who it was. And for the first time in my life, I just dropped and was bawling. Like, there was something that shifted in me where I knew there was, like, what I was looking for, there really was something out there to confirm that for me. And everybody in the room gathered around me, and they were like, "Are you accepting Jesus?" And I'm like, "I don't even know what that means, so I guess I am." And so I remember thinking, if this is what, it feels like to, like, have, some kind of a spiritual connection, I'm all in. And so I
Hmm.
went home, and, I think my mom just let me go because that's what you do. Your teenager wants to go to this thing. So I went home and told my mom, I became a Christian this weekend. And she looked at me. She's like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And that's when I was like, I don't know. But something in me wouldn't stop. Like, I was able to drive at the time. I would sneak to church. Like,
Really?
I, I was like, because my family just wasn't on board with me going. So when I would say, "Hey, I'm going to go to the party," I actually went to church. This is
Oh,
so
God.
weird. And so, not that I didn't also do the other teenage things, but I was really dedicated. Like, I knew I had a calling on my life and that I was going to achieve it. And so I just started going and being very dedicated to it. Ended up going to a Christian college, got a degree in the Bible so that I could preach among the world the truth and, do all that. And after about 3 years at the Christian college, I think I was about 22, I started having these feelings of, I'm like, I'm not sure this is it. I'm not sure this is what I'm supposed to do. And I remember I left the Christian college and I went to a university to get a degree in human services and mental health to help, like, go work in the mental health field. And that felt very aligned for me at the time. And so I was like, okay, I figured this out. I'm supposed to be, doing like therapy work. I'm supposed to be in mental health. I'm supposed to be helping people in this kind of field. And so I dove into that and I was like super dedicated. I still remember I'm in touch with one of my professors from college at the university. I was still super, super Christian. I remember having arguments with her in the middle of class about, she was very awakened and like kind of where I am now. And she would bring things up in class and I would argue with her because it wasn't in the Bible. Like, I was that dedicated
If
that
it wasn't canonized, then it was like, "No, we're not gonna go there."
right, right. So I was super, like, programmed to really be in this religion. And then around that, I did a whole bunch of trips. I went to India, I went to Laos, I went to Thailand, I traveled all over the world for what I felt like I was supposed to do with my life. And it every time I came back to America, I would have this, like, almost like identity collapse. Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people that have been outside of America and
Mhm.
come back, it's kinda like, "Oh, this is not all it is," you know?
Mhm.
And I still remember it was when I came back from Thailand, I went into this really strange season of contemplating what God was, whether I really believed what the church was telling me. Like, just I kinda went according to those beliefs, I was, like, rebelling, I guess. I started studying Buddhism, I started kind of just wanting to do my own thing. And then a friend, pulled me back into the church, was like, "You're straying from the Lord. So let's get you back on track here." And so I went back into the church. But this time when I went back in, I got involved in a Pentecostal, charismatic, evangelical, Bible believing, like hardcore church.
What the fuck?
And
That's a big jump.
I, you know, since I was super spiritual, in the middle of all this, I was still seeing spirits. I was still feeling them. I was still having communication with them. I could tell you stories about shadows following me, seeing shadows on other people. I would hear things say my voice. From a mental health perspective, I probably would have been schizophrenic.
Mhm.
But those are things I'd had my whole life. Like even at 12 years old, I was placed in a mental hospital because people couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And, I look back now, I'm like, well, nobody could tell me because it wasn't human. It was
There was nothing
spiritual.
wrong with you. Yeah,
Right.
you were just able to see beyond the veil, and that was not normal for most people who are programmed into sleep.
Exactly. Exactly. So, um, so I think it was right after around 22, 23, around then, that I really started to feel like something is beyond this. I started having visions and dreams. I started having, like I could predict something was going to happen. Like these things started to take place in my life. And I remember in the middle of this journey of searching, like I still was going to church, and I would go to church and I'd be like, I'm seeing this thing, or I'm hearing this string, or I'm having this dream before it happens, and they're like, "Oh, that's demonic. You need to be delivered." So they would take me
Mhm.
in the back of the church and do deliverance sessions on me to try to get the demons off me. And I just thought there was something really terribly wrong with me. I I was the worst sinner. I was going to make it to heaven because God, I was never going to be good enough. I just beat myself up because I could not stop what was happening to me in my energy field, like seeing spirits, communicating, all that stuff. So it's interesting that all that continued even though I was trying to shut it down so much. It was almost like spirit was like, "No, you have, like, this is why you're here. You have to stay connected." And I did shut it down some. It's just when everything we see outside of ourselves in the energy realm is based on what energy we hold within us. So
Right.
I was projecting into what I was experiencing evil because I
Mhm.
was being taught this is evil. And
Mhm.
when you wake up and you see, oh wait, none of it's really evil, then it completely transforms how you work with the energy field and with
Mhm.
spirits and things beyond our human logic. And I remember having like this really intense experience probably when I was around 26. I was visiting a friend. She lived about 8 hours from my home, and she was going to be going to a church service like that next day, and I was like, I don't want to go because I'm like trying to leave church. And I went to go get in my car. This is the first time I know for sure, like, I heard spirit talk to me. Went to go get in my car, and I heard, "If you leave, your car will break down." And so I turned to my friend and I said, "My car's gonna break down." And she's like, "Oh, no, it won't. Like, we'll pray over it. You'll be fine. No big deal." And there was something in me that said, "No, if I leave this, I'm not gonna make it home."
Wow.
So of course we pray and I get in my car to leave. And 5 minutes down the road, my car just shuts off. And I was like, I freaking knew this. And so I slowly began to learn to trust myself when I would
Mhm.
hear something. But because I had to stay, something really strange happened to me the next day because I ended up having to go to this thing that I didn't want to go to. And I've learned a lot since leaving religion that just because people are in the church just like I was, doesn't mean they're not gifted or they don't hold
Mm.
something to help, awaken something in us.
Right.
And that evening, the strangest thing happened. This man that came up to me and started talking to me. Um, I didn't know who he was. He started telling me about who I was and what I was supposed to do, and I'm looking at him like, "What? Who are you, and why are you talking to me?" And he says, "Can I hug you?" And I was like, "Guess,
Yeah.
that's weird, you know?" So he hugs me, and when he hugs me, literally, I don't know how to describe this other than a bolt of lightning came out of the sky and went down through the crown of my head, all the way down through my body, and I fell down. And it scared the crap out of me because I jumped back up and I looked at him and I said, "What did you do to me?" And he just laughed at me and he said, "You just been activated." And I something shifted in me in that moment, and I started having even more connection with spirit. And it really kind of was overwhelming for
You
me.
knew what he was doing though, like, he was like, "You're gonna be activated," and he felt called and pulled to you.
Yeah, it's just so
Oh my
crazy.
gosh, yeah.
This is just proof that spirit knows what it's doing. Even it doesn't matter where you are or if you're off track or if you're in religion, if you're not like spirit is going to get you where you're meant to be. You just have to keep
Mhm.
following the prompts of it. So that happened in my 20s. Things started to unravel after that. And by age, about 2014, I was about 34 at the time, and I started having this desire to study end times. Like, I got obsessed with studying it. I don't know what.
Probably because, honestly, 2012 was a whole thing. There was people who were actually, like, jumping off and, like, taking their, their lives and doing kinds of, like, giving away all their things because the world was gonna end in 2012. And we
That's
had
true.
the Day After Tomorrow and all the world was gonna end movies.
Yeah.
And I think that we were just like, "Okay, maybe there's something to it." And then we all started learning about Mayan prophecy, like Hopi prophecy, and you're like, "Wait a second, what is this?" And I think it just naturally, because I was interested, but not to the
Mhm.
degree that you were. But
Yeah.
I'd love to know more because I think that this is probably when we were all kind of, like, being activated and waking up and the shift was happening.
Yeah, you look we can look like what you said, like, we can look back at there's been shifts in consciousness for humans. We just
Mhm,
didn't know that we were being gradually shifted to where we are
mhm,
now. And but for me, it was almost like I couldn't help but dive into this as deep as I possibly could. I remember I had probably 5 Bibles, all different versions, like the NIV, the Amplified, I had them King James all lined up, and I would read a chapter in each of them and compare them, and I started to see within each book that it wasn't the same. And I
mhm,
got started to ask questions like, "Why is it all different?" And
mhm,
I'd go to the church and I'd ask like the pastor, like, "Well, in this version it says this, and in this version it says that." And they're like, "Oh, well," I make up some excuse. But it's something in me activated when I saw that.
mhm,
And so I started spending like obsessive amount of time in prayer. Like, I would for hours sit in meditation. I didn't even know I was meditating. I would sit in meditation for hours and I could feel this presence coming on me. And
mhm,
I could feel this energy, and something was beginning to shift for me. And then one day, this is 2 years of this. One day in 2016, in the summer of 2016, I'm in my backyard mowing my yard. I'm push mowing it. I know exactly where I was standing when this happened. I was facing my house, moving towards my house, and I heard an audible voice out of nowhere say, "You're doing it wrong." And I remember thinking, did I just make that up, or was there somebody in my yard like that I can't hear because my mower's so loud? So I remember I turned my mower off and I looked around. Nobody was there. And I was like, that was weird. So I start my mower again and I start pushing and I hear it again. "You're doing it wrong. Stop walking in condemnation." And that's when I knew I'm hearing a voice, and it was coming
mhm,
from the right side of me. And it was like, it felt like this really big energy to the right of me that I couldn't comprehend. And then I heard it again. "You're doing it wrong. This is not what you're supposed to be doing here." And then I started literally in a second, my whole life flashed before my eyes. I started seeing, like, things I have experienced in my life, things I felt. I could see I started for the very first time felt like I was living inside of this box, and it's the only way I can describe it, is that my reality had been smooshed into this box, and that I was perceiving things based on that, and there was more outside of it.
Yeah.
And it was like it really felt like a near-death experience is what it felt like. And I, in a second, shifted and changed
Yep.
and woke
Mhm.
up. And it was interesting because, just because the way I was programmed at the time, spirit was using biblical and religious things to get to me because that's how my mind was programmed at the
Mhm.
time, and it had to use that kind of stuff to wake me up. And so I would start hearing things like, walk in freedom, walk in liberty, like these old Christian songs I'd sing, and like all these things coming to my mind that, have some truth in them, but they were polluted by the beliefs in which they were created.
But they were reference points for you, right? Like,
Yeah.
something you could anchor you to feeling safe as you were now
Mhm.
getting divine wisdom, divine guidance that was gonna be a little different. I think
Mhm.
for a lot of us, they find something that's familiar because it's so unfamiliar with what we're about to walk into. This is
Mhm.
gonna get weird.
Yeah.
Let's let's anchor you to
Right.
something you can hold on to, and so that you trust it more, and I think that's kind of how the discernment starts is like, "Oh, I
Mhm.
feel like I can trust this. This feels like what
Yeah.
I know." And
Yeah.
then you go into the river of life and buckle up
Right.
because
Get ready. Things are gonna get
it gets
wild.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll play your game for a little bit, but here's the truth. Yeah, it was crazy. One of the very first things I remember thinking was I before I became a Christian, um I loved, like, old '70s music, and, like, I was totally, like, hippie-ish, even growing up, like, I've always been like that, but I shut that part of my personality down when I became religious because it didn't fit into that, and, you couldn't listen to that music because it was or sinning or
Mhm.
the devil or whatever, and I remember the first urge I had was to go back to my own personality, to start doing things I loved again, and that was music. And turning the channel on the car in my car radio was actually very difficult for me because I was programmed so strongly that if I even listen to this, I am going to invite demonic activity into my life.
Listening to secular music. Yeah.
Yep. So I had to push through that, and eventually, it left, but it was like one thing after another. I was deprogramming. I was deconstructing my beliefs, like what most people go through when they start to leave, any kind of religion. But as I'm deconstructing all that, I'm rebuilding my gifts, and I didn't even know that was happening. And probably about 6 months after this weird experience happened, I started hearing this like the way I can describe it is a voice, but also like a feeling, like a knowing. And I kept hearing, reach out to your dad, reach out to your dad, reach out to your dad. Now, my dad and I didn't have a great relationship. He wasn't a horrible man, but he was not a great dad. He was the type of person, like, he would ignore me in public. Like, I just felt so shameful. Like, if I saw him at the same restaurant, like, he wouldn't even say hi to me, or it was just I felt invisible to my dad most of my life, and so I didn't reach out to him. I didn't talk to him unless it was, like, Christmas or a birthday
Mhm.
kind of
Mhm.
a thing, and so I just kind of, like, accepted the fact that I don't have connection with my dad, and when this feeling started coming up for me, I was like, "This is no, not gonna do this, not gonna reach out to my dad," and it would not go away, and I probably um, spent probably at least 2 to 3 months resisting this feeling, but, like, I would be even just doing mundane, like, washing my dishes, I'd hear, "Call your dad." And I'm
Mhm.
like, "No, I'm not gonna do that." Like, I
That's
don't
when your
know.
audience is so loud.
I know. So, finally, I'm like, "This isn't going away." And I just had this urge of, if you don't do this, you're gonna regret it. So I reached out, like, I texted him one day and I said, "Hey, can I come see you?" Which I'm, like, scared because I don't know how he's gonna react. And he's like, "Sure, come on over." And so I went over and I started it was just awkward, you don't know what to say. So I sat with him for probably an hour at his house and just kinda, like, had a surface level conversation, and something shifted for me in that. Something was, like, awoken for me that I needed to keep doing this. So I just kept reaching out, and it was almost like I was teaching my dad how to be my dad. It felt really strange. And about 6 months after this, I noticed he was losing weight. He was not looking well at all. And I was like, "Oh my god, my dad's sick." And so I was on a work trip one weekend, and I was out of town, and he called me one night and he said to me, "Ange, I need to let you know I just got diagnosed with cancer." And I was interesting as I knew. I knew it was gonna happen. It's just interesting that that voice, my spirit team was trying to get me to know that before it happened, to
Mhm.
build this connection and relationship with him so that I could walk through this with him as my dad. And so I started I went to every chemo. I went to every like, I just showed up for him and all of it, and it was a very difficult 3 years to watch him go through that. And then when he transitioned in, September of 2020, I was right beside him when it happened. He actually passed on September 23rd at 9:23 at night, so 9:23 at 9:23, which was a really interesting experience to be beside him when that happened, and, like, that's a whole 'nother story how that happened, but,
Can I
something.
tell you something real fast?
Yeah.
All day yesterday, I was seeing 923. Right.
Really?
And I was told you that I was dealing with, like, the passing of my grandfather and my grandmother having a
Mhm.
stroke and my mom being in hospice, and I saw my granddad's birthday of 323, and I kept seeing
Wow.
923. I was like, "Why is 923?" I'm like, "Well, 923 is nothing for me."
There
I
you
swear.
go. That I love see, that's
Your
how spirit
dad.
works. Yeah,
Oh
and
my
today's the 23rd. I didn't
Yep.
even know.
It's 123.
So, this is so fun how spirit, like, synchronizes things for
Yeah.
us and, just confirms things. But after his transition, it was almost like he got to the other side and he looked back at me and he saw me for the first time. And it kinda makes me wanna cry a little bit because he was never able to see me as a human. He was never able to acknowledge my gifts or what I carried within me, and when he got to the other side, it was almost like he made it his personal mission to make sure I step into what I'm here to do. And things just started to move really quickly. Had already really been doing a lot of healing work already, like going to therapy, trying to like figure out, all my trauma. And I felt like he just started like guiding me to the right people that could help me and to teach me about myself and to dive deeper into my healing process. And I would spend hours in meditation and I would ask him to confirm things for me so that I knew what I needed to heal or how to heal it. And he would come through and be like, "Yeah, that happened, Ange. I see this." Started to talk to me about things. And then one day in meditation, I'm sitting there talking to him, and I hear him say to me, "Ange, I need you to forgive me." And I was like, "I did. Like, I forgave you before you left, Dad. I don't need to forgive you." And he says, "No." He said, "There's a difference between saying you forgive somebody and just letting it go, and another thing to actually heal what I caused you." And he said, "It's time for you to acknowledge how I made you feel." Because when somebody passes, it's kinda like we shut down the hard stuff because it's harder to, like, connect with that.
Mhm.
And so, um, it's like he gave me permission to be upset with him and to feel the pain that he caused me. And he said to me in this moment, he said, "Ange, when you heal this, you not only are healing you, but you're healing me. And my vibration shifts higher and I release this karmic cycle, therefore I don't have to repeat this and come to earth. So when you heal something here, you're not just healing yourself, you're healing your entire family lineage. And these things that have been carried on through generations are done with you. So he actually showed me that in his spirit, he would rise in his vibration as a spirit. And that would cause me to rise in my vibration as a human and this word, of course. And that would shift the consciousness of everything else that's going like connected to this. And it was just an eye-opening, like clear understanding about how powerful the work we do here on earth really is and how it goes beyond just our life, just our humanness.
Yeah, I completely resonate with that, and I'm so thankful for, like, that storytelling. I literally feel like the entire time I'm just like, "Yes, yes, uh-huh, absolutely." Like, I'm resonating with every single part of what you just said, and forgiveness is so challenging when you're a human, when you had real trauma, really hard things happen to you, and each of us have our own set of trauma that's not comparative, it's just is.
Mhm,
And I have, like, worked really hard on forgiveness of others and forgiveness of myself for allowing those things to even happen to me or allowing myself to feel silenced. And I know that there's these soul agreements and we agreed to do these things for our highest and greatest good to elevate each other. And like some people, in a way, like they do such horrible things to elevate you, right? Like their souls agree. Like I've had a situation where I know I'm never going to get the apology earth side. Like I have to
mhm,
go tap into spirit.
mhm,
And in that moment, like we hugged, we apologized to each other for any hurts that ever happened. Cause like I'm sure
mhm.
I hurt that person and that person absolutely hurt me and
Yeah.
they're still here on earth. But when you see things from the higher perspective of, "We agreed to this, like,
Mhm,
you're gonna help elevate me, and then eventually in doing so, that will hurt you, and then you will elevate too." Like, there's this
mhm,
moment of pure understanding that we are all light. We are
mhm,
all of this one source creator light, and in some lifetimes, you don't necessarily choose that because your soul wants to learn contrast, your soul wants to learn the opposite because think about the yin yang, right? Like without one side of it, it's just not whole. It's
mhm,
two sides of the same coin. And spirituality and science is the same thing as well. It's like we can explain what we're walking through science as well, more and more now. But we are walking through light interfacing with darkness every minute of the day,
mhm,
and we can't be mad at it, as even if it hurt. Like, it hurt me. I didn't think I'd
mhm,
survive it. I'm sure having your own father not see you feels
mhm,
like the ultimate form of abandonment, and then in the abandonment of the father, there's abandonment of yourself, and
mhm,
then you give away and you were looking externally for something to fill you,
mhm,
but then when you finally get to this piece of, "I forgive you, I can forgive you, I forgive myself, I forgive everyone," you can actually be made whole. And
mhm,
then you understand that you're part of you're part of this beautiful mosaic of life. And
mhm,
when that's why I have my little saying at the end is when I heal, you heal, when you heal, I heal, and we all heal, we rise. And like the fact that your dad even confirmed that by saying, "And you gotta
mhm.
forgive me. And
Yeah,
when you forgive me, it helps me. And then that helps you." Like that's literally that
yeah.
same exact sentiment, right?
Yeah, it's so true, it's so true, it's and it is difficult, having my dad kinda gave me a glimpse into his life review, after this
Mhm.
happened, and he explained to me what he felt and saw from his perspective as a spirit when he looked back at the human life, and
Mhm.
he explained to me that, I was physically, mentally, and sexually abused by my stepdad, and nobody believed me growing up, and it was really difficult to hold all that energy and I just felt alone, and
Mhm.
so when my dad saw that, not only was he a horrible dad and ignored me, but he didn't protect me from things that were happening from another man. And so I'm sure that he probably saw that and was like, in many ways, he said to me, he's like, I didn't know how bad it was. Like he said that to me and he felt what I felt and he
Mhm.
experienced it all for himself. And that's when he was like, "Oh my god, like, no wonder you feel so restricted in your energy and held, almost like hostage to the circumstances you've been through."
Mhm,
Because when we have this feeling of like, I know this happened to me, but there's no validation on the outside of me.
mhm.
Nobody believes me, or nobody can, sit with me in this experience, then we start to make our identity about that.
Mhm.
And when we create an identity, that restricts us from our truth altogether. All things on earth are about labels and identity. And when you deconstruct, when you step back into your truth, you release labels and identity and you find your authentic self. And finding your authentic self is scary because you've never met them.
Deeply painful, deeply
Yes.
painful.
It's
Buckle
like,
up.
right? Like, who is this person I'm becoming? Like, we really truly are more fearful of our true self and our success than we are of failing. Like,
Mhm.
failure is just part of the experience. Succeeding is like, how do I maintain that when I've never been there before? When I've
Then how do you
never
learn? How do you learn?
right. And
Like,
so
yeah, if everything's always working out easily and beautifully, like, you actually don't grow as much as you do when you're in the
right.
depths of hell. Like, I grew so much in the pits of hell. I was like, "Whoa, I'm pretty resilient. Look at me
Yeah.
go."
Yeah, like, damn, I am really strong, Like,
Yep.
all the things that you get to go through in your life
Mhm.
really are like, if I hadn't experienced the things I experienced, there's no way I could be the healer I am today or the teacher I am today. And it's unfortunate
Mhm.
from a human perspective, but it's a powerful thing from the spirit perspective because I look back when I get to the other side, when I join my dad and I look back at this life, I'm going to see the energy of all this and how I transformed it.
Do you know what's really fascinating is whenever I was really going through it too, and I was, like, why do I have to deal with not having enough money? Like the poverty wound. Why do I have to deal with the health wound? I'm chronically ill, hospitalization, surgeries, my body's in chronic pain. I don't know what it's like to live, right?
Mhm.
Then you're going through just suffering and heartbreak and the pain of being a human, and why do people turn on me and hate me? And then you feel victim, right? You feel like a victim. I think it's a natural state is that we all go through, woe is me, why me? What did I do? What did I do to deserve this? All those different things, right? And it's not that you did anything to deserve it. None of us do, right? These are heinous acts that sometimes
Mhm.
happen to us. But what I was told from my guides was, how could you ever relate with the collective if you never went through it?
Right?
Like, how do I connect with someone who's been like homeless or lost their job if I've never gone through almost losing my house and like worrying about trying to keep my job and all the things that I've gone through, right? Like
Mhm.
not being able to have enough money to feed your kids. Like, how could I ever have empathy for that
Mhm.
person over there who's struggling to eat? Now I feed people constantly. Like there's
Right?
people who just I can tell. And I literally fed someone the other day. He was asking someone for money at Chipotle, and I was with my daughter, and he asked someone and say, "Oh, no, man, sorry, I don't got any money." I'm like, I had already clocked him. I saw him over there with his water cup, and I just heard, "Feed him." I was like, 10-4, I've got $13 in my purse. And I said, "Here you go." And I gave him $13, and the first thing he said is, "God bless you." And I said, "God
Yeah.
bless you too. I hope you get your belly full."
Yeah.
And it's just like, you don't know that unless you know what it's been like to not have enough food.
Right.
And so it's just these experiences, I do think, shape you into becoming a better human,
Absolutely.
right?
If you allow it, if
You
you
allow
allow
it.
yeah. And I
Mhm.
think what's beautiful is that your daughter was with you.
Mhm.
And we get to teach the younger generations how to be the hands. Like there's
Mhm.
one thing to talk about being the hand, of feet, in God, like to share that love. It's another to actually do it and being it, like pass it down, you know?
Oh, I love feeding
So
homeless people. My daughters both are like, "Hey, he looks hungry. Can we feed him?" And, like, we make peanut butter jellies or spaghetti, and we go
I
pass it
love
him off.
it. That's
Like, this is
awesome.
just what we do, and I think that
Mhm.
your wisdom is just so beautiful. But back to your story, I just wanted
Yeah.
to kind of see how
No.
important it is that we go through these things.
Yeah. No. It's absolutely so true. It's just so amazing to understand from the spirit realm what is actually like the purpose of this experience that we're
Mhm.
in. Just to add on to that, like my spirit team told me one day, it's one thing to read a book about going for a walk and how it can help your body. It's another
Mhm,
thing to actually go out for the walk and experience. That is
mhm,
what our spirit is doing, is we are coming from blissful love. And it's not that love doesn't reside on earth or in the third dimension. It's just
mhm.
that love holds a different understanding and frequency. And the purpose of it is to bring us back to ourself. And so when we tap back into our truth, when we dissect everything that we've been told we're supposed to be and we relearn who we really are, then that love is the resonating frequency that we hold, which brings about action to change yourself and other people. Like, you can't help but help people when you are an energy of love. That's just who you are.
It's just who you are,
Yeah,
100%. That's so
yeah,
true.
yeah.
So did your gifts continue to evolve into, like, now you're talking to your dad, he's
Mhm.
gone. Talking to spirit is something that does happen. And then did you feel like you started talking to more than just your dad and spirit?
Yes. So, gosh, there's so many crazy things that happened because I mean, just as dedicated as I was in religion, I'm just as dedicated as I am as a spiritual seeker. Like meditation, energy work, like every day. Like it's just like I set aside time for it. And so
Mhm,
because of that, it just kind of started shifting things for me even more. And I started having out of body experiences in my meditation practices. And um there's so many things I could share with you about these, but I ended up meeting my spirit team one day. It was before work, actually. One day I was still working full time, and it was, I'm already talking to my dad, so I'm like, okay, let's see who else I can talk to. And I sat down in my living room, and I had been using like headphones and like meditation music to meditate
mhm,
because it helped my ADHD and calm down.
mhm.
And which is a great tool if you're trying to learn how to meditate, use
Yep.
headphones because it keeps you focused. But I sat down to see if I can communicate with my spirit team, and I turn on my headphones and my music. I'm sitting there, I'm trying to concentrate, and I invite them to come in. And I hear, I know it's so funny. Spirit Realm is funny, by the way.
They
I
are.
I hear, I heard them say, "You can't hear us," and I'm thinking, "Well, I just heard you say that you can't hear us, so I can't hear." But like, what's the point?
I am actually listening.
Right? I heard you say that. And so, they they said, "Turn your music."
Oh,
Basically, they
yeah.
turn the music off, and I was like, "Oh, well, I need music to concentrate." So I turned the volume down on the music, and I start tuning it back in, and I hear again, "You can't hear us." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you guys." So I turn it as low as it can go, and I'm sitting there, and I can like, I know I'm hearing something,
Mhm.
and they say, "Turn it off." And I was like, "Oh." And so I remember I'm so
Same.
stubborn, like, surely this will work? And so I turn it off, and that as soon as I turn it off and I tune back in, my whole living room fills up with light, and I get this horrible headache. My
Mhm.
head starts throbbing, and I hear them say, "Your vibration is too low. Raise your vibration." And I'm like, "What does that mean? What does raise your vibration mean?" And they just said, "Just shift your energy." I don't know how I knew how to do it, but in my mind, I just thought, I'm going to shift my energy." So somehow shifted my energy into a higher frequency, and the headache just left just right away. And then I saw six beings standing in front of me, and one of them was like, they weren't like human figures, they were just light.
Mhm.
And the one in the middle was like a little bit taller, like probably about 10 feet tall. And then there's some others on around her. And then I suddenly see this other spirit pop his head up between two of the spirits, and it's my dad. And he pops his head up in between, and he goes, "Me too." And like cracking up. I just start cracking up because I'm like, of course my dad shows up as I'm talking to my guides. And so my dad gets in line with my guides, like they're all standing in front of me. And he says to me, I'm a spirit guide too. And then he goes, well, actually, these are your real ones. I'm just the one in training. And so he's basically told me, I'm going to be helping you out, playing a role as one of your guides as well. But these are your other main guides that you work with. And over time, I've gotten to know who some of them are. Like the tall middle one, I had a actual apparition experience with her once. And she calls herself Annabelle. And so I anyways, so I have this experience and I'm super excited because I get to talk to my guides now and I know what they kind of feel like and so I'm asking them questions and I'm in meditation with them and I'm asking like I asked Annabelle one time, are you the in control? Are you the like, you know, one that keeps everybody else in? And she's like, I remember they like looked at each other like, what is she asking? Like somebody's in control? And I heard them say, nobody's in control. We all work as one. And so they're kind of like teaching
Mhm.
the difference between how humans look at something and how spirit looks at something. And then shortly after that experience, I'm in meditation again. And I start like, this is, it's hard to explain some of these things because there's no words to it sometimes. But
Right, there's no human words to really articulate it.
so I find myself kind of like in my spirit leaving my body. And the next thing I know, I'm in this white space, like pure white, bright space. Like there's no white I could ever describe. It's so pure white. I'm in this white space and I'm just like, whoa, there's the love, the energy of this is beyond comprehension. And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden, I realized that this white space is a room. And the only reason I realized it was a white space or a room was because I began to see windows around it. And there was a brighter white coming in the windows in the room, which made it even brighter. And all of a sudden, a wooden chair pops up beside me. It's like right beside me in this room. And I look over and a door opens to this room out into the other white, the brighter white. And I just impulsively grab the chair, walk over to the door, unzip my body, set my body on the chair, and walk out the door into this wherever I am.
This is so cool.
And I walk out into this like spirit universe, wherever this is, this dimension, and I sudden like this frequency of everything and nothing. Like there's only blissful. Like the only way I've ever been able to describe this is if when you laugh so hard you pee your pants and
Yeah.
like you have the most amazing experience ever in your day and like the best orgasm, like if you could have every good human experience at once, like it's bigger than that. It's better than that. And I'm just like, this is amazing. And so I remember I began to take a step or trying to step forward, take a step forward into this energy because I thought I am going to go see what else is in here.
This seems cool.
And I feel this hand come and go like this on my chest. And it says, you're only supposed to feel it. It's not time to come in here yet. And it pushed me back into my body, into the room, and I came back into this realm. And I was like, oh my God, I think I just went to wherever, like some dimension, heaven, whatever that was. And so that completely changed like my perspective of who we are as spirits and how
Yeah.
much we really like where we come from. Then shortly after that, I had another body out of body experience where I was meditating and spirit once again took me and I began to hover over the earth, and I started to be pulled up from the bird's eye view, like just
Mhm.
float, 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 float away from Earth. Next thing I know, I'm looking down at Earth and I can see the energy of Earth. I can see
Mhm.
how every single thing has a frequency, everything has a color, everything has is like it's beautiful from spirit's perspective. It's just magnificent. But I kept going further and further and further. And I found myself going through these different realms and
Mhm.
dimensions. Like I could tell you what the 5th dimension, the 6th dimension, the 7th dimension, like I started going through all these dimensions. And I found myself in this completely dark place. And it was like not scary dark. It was just like everything and nothing at once kind of a feeling.
Mhm.
And I'm in this dark place and I start looking around and I start seeing little stars is what it looked like. Like the stars in like on a really clear country night, there's billions of stars. I start seeing billions and billions and billions of stars around me. And I was just like, this is amazing. Like I'm looking around and my heart just exploded with love. Like I'm like, I love every single one of these stars. And there's nothing better than like I was just like, there's no words. There's truly no words. And all of a sudden I feel this energy to the right of me. And I just feel this pull to come to turn and look. And I turn and look and I see this ginormous energy ball. And it's like glowing and pulsating and it has like colors within it that I will never be able to describe. It's just magnificent. And as I'm watching this big energy, I start to see those little stars being shot out of it into this darkness. And I'm looking at it and I suddenly realize that is God or source
Mhm. Mhm.
and it is creating itself. And every single one of these little stars or they're spirits. This is where God creates itself. And then these spirits go create it's their selves outside of this dimension. So I saw God creating this is literally what it means to be created in the image of God. We are exact replicas of it in our
Mhm.
true form. And so
Oh.
it was like this eye-opening experience of who we all are and where we all come from and how
Mhm.
we're all one.
Oh.
It was
Yeah. Girl, that is how I perceive God. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you see the video of this, I have this, like, shit-eating grin on my face right now because I'm like, that is exactly how I perceive God. I've never perceived it as a daddy in the sky or a
Mhm,
man with a beard, like, sitting on a chair. I
mhm,
always tell everyone, I said, "Okay, God is like light. God is like this
mhm,
plasma, beautiful light, and then it's within every single thing that's ever been created. It literally is this spark of life, this creation's, like, source that exists."
mhm,
And when I went into myself, I literally saw this tiniest light, and then I watched it grow, 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 and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's like literally it's always there, it can never go it gets snuffed out. It's
mhm,
literally always going to exist." But this moment in your life when your soul is ready, when your soul chooses it,
yeah.
you will find it again. And then, like, you're talking and I'm like, "Yeah, I've never seen exactly that, but I know exactly that." Like,
Mhm,
I just perceive it as this space of pure, unconditional love that exists beyond time and space that we can't actually fathom and wrap our minds around. But how you described it is exactly how I've known it to be. And I'm
yeah,
like, yes, yes, that's it.
yeah.
Holy cow, that's beautiful,
It's
Angie.
it's I yeah, I'm so blessed to have been able to experience those things, and it's just, I think that sometimes it's easy to compare your journey to other people's, and there's, like,
Mhm,
people that have had, like, actual near-death experiences that have gone and had these experiences, and when you actually haven't died and you still have those experiences, and then you hear somebody that really did die and have that experience, it's so confirming that everything really is one energy, and we all truly do exist and come from the same thing.
Mhm.
Like, the things that we think are beyond, you know, our human logic that we make up, like, no, those are our truth. It's just so crazy
Yeah.
how we have been taught to ignore our own true, like, the imagination of a child. Like, that's why,
Mhm.
Jesus talks about come like a child. Like, you have to come like a child to have these
Mhm.
experiences, or else you're gonna block them.
Like, and think about a child. A child has new eyes and new ears. The child
Mhm,
hasn't been programmed, and he says, "If you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear," and I always say, I think
mhm.
it's the deprogrammed eyes, the
Yeah.
deprogrammed ears, because, like, my daughter feels and sees, and now that I know other people when they were children feel and see and know,
Mm.
I talk to her, and well, she's just like, "Yeah, mom, like, you know that Pops is gonna die, but he's gonna come back as something else, like, if he wants to," and I'm like, "Well, like, I know that, but, like, how do you know that?"
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like she just knows, and I think that this is the most beautiful conversation to segue into the next topic is there's a lot of people who are waking up really rapidly, and you had a lot of years to unfold. I had 3 years to really unfold. I think I had intuition and I knew things, but nothing
Mhm,
like what I've experienced since 2023.
mhm,
We are walking through a huge shift in consciousness, and there's
mhm,
people like you and I and many, many others that get these divine messages from our guides, from our team, and I know that you interface with
mhm,
the wisdom keepers, and I think that this is, like, the perfect opportunity for us to talk about how we have the real life implementation of this knowledge and wisdom to help
mhm,
carry not only ourselves through this really interesting time that we're walking through as a collective of humanity, but, like, how do we get through it, and what can we expect on the other side? Because I know that light wins. I know that light's already won, and we're in a time echo, and we just haven't seen it
mhm,
yet, and I say that, but I would love to hear, like, what you've been told, what your guides have
mhm,
shared with you, if you wanna share that with us, because
mhm.
there's a lot of fear that's winning right now, and a lot of
Yeah.
souls are waking up, and it's a lot of anger and
Mhm,
hatred and vitriol and
mhm.
division, and I don't think that's where we're supposed to stay. That's why we're doing these kinds of conversations and
Right.
spreading the word.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I started getting visions of New Earth, around the same time that my dad passed, and they began to show me, like, they would actually show me, like, splits, like a cell of the body splitting in half is what they began to show me, and then they started to show me, like, they would give me visions of, like, waves happening on Earth, of, like, things being cleared out and opened up, and then they would start to show me in my mind, like, what's happening now, to be
Mhm,
honest. Like, I started seeing several years ago, who was gonna be a power, what was gonna happen when that person was in power. Like, I knew 2 years prior to all this happening that it was gonna come, and, you don't want to be right sometimes, but
mhm,
when you get these, you just have to trust that it's all for a purpose and reason. And what we're in right now is, from the perspective of a human, we look at it as if things are getting worse. And but from a spirit's perspective, with the team I work with, the Wisdom Keepers, they are like a 12th dimensional team that they give me visions from their perspective. They show me what it looks like looking at the energetic field of Earth, and how the duality that is happening between the light and darkness is actually right on track with the awakening of so many humans, and how light really is beginning to become more prominent. And
mhm,
the reason it feels so chaotic is because of that.
mhm,
And, you can look back through history of humanity, and there's always been, like, some kind of a war or destruction or things like that. But on the scale that it is now, it is a different type of an energy. And I think people feel that because it's we're starting to realize these things of hate and anger and pain and harming one another go against our own nature. They go
mhm,
against the love frequency of who we are. And so we feel uncomfortable with this because we know there's better things that we could be doing. And so bringing as we shift out of what we call the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, the age of Pisces was about the ego. It was about religion. It was about a hierarchy system. It was about control from an outside source. Now we move back into an individual source where everybody's coming back to the power of their own heart, but it's
Mhm.
not in a way of egotistic, I'm better than you. It's a I empower myself so I can empower you, but I don't need you to get my power.
Mhm.
Because when we all know who we are, when we walk in that authentic truth of our light, then we don't give that away. We find that within, and I release you from the idea that you must be who I think you should be, and you find your way. So instead of looking for an outside source to heal us or to help us or to change our life, we come back into our own heart. That's what's happening. So this is actually evidence that we're doing that. And from the perspective of a human, it sucks really
Yeah,
bad,
it does.
but like the wisdom keepers keep telling me you guys are on time. This is on time. You more and more and more people are waking up every single day. Like, they gave me a vision a couple weeks ago of their perspective of the earth having, like, lights turning on all over the earth. Like,
Mhm.
there's more and more and more light turning on, and what happens when more light turns on is the things that were hidden in the darkness have to come to the surface.
Mhm.
And it's like literally the collapse of something that cannot maintain in the energy of light. And, they're reminding me right now of the vision they gave me. They showed me a like humanity, or like if you could imagine like Earth was a big puzzle and like, but the interesting thing is like the puzzle wasn't put together right. It was like people were trying to fit into spots they didn't fit. Maybe your little side thing kind of fit in this place, but it didn't
Mhm.
really fit. You were trying to shove yourself into this role, into this place. You're playing a role and identity for human
Mhm.
sake. But what happened is what we're going through right now is God is taking the puzzle and throwing it in the air, and it's all coming back down into the right space and right frequency. So we're finding our individual spots, which then is going to allow humanity to be whole and to
Mhm.
be complete and to be on the same level without having to have hierarchy and control systems.
Uh-huh.
And it's it's just we're in the middle of that chaos, of the confusion, of the breaking apart. Like, I like to think of it as like we're in the earthquake, but once the earthquake gets over, things begin to settle back down. And
Yeah, so for me, I feel the same way. I like that image of the puzzle being flipped and put back into place because a lot of us light workers, just different collectives and grouping of people who have been working on, recalibration as well and working in that effort with God source creator is to, flip the inversion and the distortions into true alignment and anything that was being held in a way hostage, hidden knowledge. And I think TikTok was a really beautiful platform for us to kind of learn a lot of things that were kept from us. But I know that things are obviously very much shifting because too many people are waking up from this one little silly app where we all find ourselves. Um, but what I saw this week was very much like what you're saying too, and how they've described it to me. And they bring up Tesla to me a lot, is where like Tesla had a lot of the same concepts of everything that we're talking about, right? But he could see a better future too with free energy and harnessing the ether and the powers that be know all of these things. They know everything that we know. They have Project Looking Glass, like the CIA, all these different.
right,
If you don't think that that is true, then you just haven't learned enough yet.
right.
They use remote viewers, they use psychics, they use
Mhm.
children. The gateway tapes
Yep,
tell you the gate program, like all these different things. They know
right,
the power of manifestation. So if they know that we are powerful manifestors as humans and that we can create anything and we can create fear,
right.
right? We can create love. We can create
Mhm,
freedom.
mhm,
So if they, every time we try to rise up, they'll push us back down
mhm,
through different events. And so I like to use just as an example, this big winter storm that's
mhm,
coming through
mhm,
this big winter storm, as well as, the, I don't want to say too many things, but like, things that are cold that
mhm,
are
mhm.
shapes of. cubes, but,
Mhm,
like ice and everything and how it's making people feel and the fear that's rising.
mhm,
There's a lot of other situations that are happening globally too. And so what I saw was an alternating current of light workers and light, and we're merging together, interlocking our hands, and like
mhm,
an alternating current, it's like boom, 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 boom. And
mhm.
they showed me like a mesh grid of all of us being on ley lines. It's why none of us really live next to each other.
Right.
We're so sad and we're so alone. And I'm like, "You're on TikTok and you're now Riverside, hi."
Yeah.
And we are right where we need to be
Mhm,
so that we can hold an anchor in this light when this next thing happens. And I see what I've been shown is like there's this, let's throw the kitchen sink at humanity. Let's see how scared we can make them. Let's
mhm,
see if
mm,
all the money goes away, if the governments collapse, if they don't,
mhm,
yes, right? Like it's
mhm,
all the disasters. And in that, it really does raise a lot of density to the surface in the humans' bodies and then
mhm,
manifested. But they showed me this shockwave of dark contrast energy shockwave, but the net is too strong now. And
mhm,
the net is gonna capture it, and the net's gonna hold us together, and we, the light workers who were on the front lines holding down the fort secretly in
mhm.
the shadows of our rooms in fetal positions in
Right.
bathtubs, meditating and praying for a better day. Like, all of us light workers are actually going to be connecting with higher dimensional beings of light who we're
Mhm,
pulling in, we're calling in, we're asking for backup and assistance, and
mhm,
they're all like, "We're here. You just can't see us, like, we're all here."
mhm,
And like
mhm.
you said earlier, "You can't hear us," and you're like, "No, I totally can." Like, "Hey, I hear
Yeah,
you now." They're like, "No, turn the music off,
right.
turn the distractions off, quiet the mind, find your still point, and then you'll be able to see,
Yep,
feel, hear, and know."
yep,
And that's where I think all of
100%.
us are headed.
Oh, 100%, I agree with you. That's a beautiful vision that they gave you, and I love that those of us that are tuned in get very similar like, it may not be the exact same thing, but it all has this I mean, spirit is super simple. There's only one answer to everything. It's always love.
It's always love.
So, we make it so complicated that it has to be everything else, but as long as we are in love and that love guides our actions, when you sit in that love, when you radiate love, when you stay out of fear, when you don't let something outside of you distract you from it, when you stay connected to the truth of your heart, even if you think you're making it up, even if you don't have connection with your guides, even if you look at somebody like you and I and you think, "Oh, well, they're someone more advanced." We're not. We just have sat with the energy long enough that we can connect with it. And
Mhm,
every single human has access to this. And that's why those in power, what you said, they've known since the beginning of time. That's how they got the power. That's how
mhm,
they have the money. Like you can be in your ego and still manifest. Like, you
mhm,
don't have to be spiritual to manifest. Like, if I believe I'm the most wealthy person in the world and I truly hold that frequency, I will attract money every single day, but I will use it for the wrong thing. Manifestation is the law of attraction doesn't change based on whether you're in your ego and your spirit. It still
mhm.
is the law of attraction.
It
So
is.
what we're doing is we're shifting the narrative from egotistic law of attraction to love law of attraction. And that's they can't fight against the light. The light has to win. And
Mhm,
but we have access to tap back and forth into the light and darkness as we do this. And we have a choice based on our free will of where we put our focus. So if I want to be in fear, I more than spirit's not going to say no. They don't, they have, I always say spirit has really good boundaries. They're not
mhm,
ever going to force us into something. They will give us clues, they will give us insights, they will give us ideas, promptings, just like my dad, like call your dad, but we
mhm.
have the free will to follow through.
Oh, yeah.
And we just have so sitting with yourself, trusting yourself, this teaches you how to trust your energy, how to trust that prompting. And the more you trust yourself, the less you look for something outside of yourself to give you information because the frequencies that come through the news or some of the things that are programmed in the human mind keep the consciousness low so we don't wake up. But as soon as humanity figures out, I don't have to play that game anymore. I don't have to agree with that part of the matrix that has been created. I can create my own. Then everything shifts. And this is why we see a split taking place too, because
Mhm,
there's humans that are playing the narrative of that energy of the low frequency. then there are those of us that are awakening and guiding humanity towards a new earth, a new higher frequency, which Spirit showed me just a couple of days ago the frequencies of 3rd, 4th, and 5th dimension. And
Mhm.
those of us that are awakened, we're kinda in the 4th dimension now, but this is the frequency of learning. So we're gonna still see the 3rd dimension, we're still gonna interact with it, but we're learning I don't have to stay in that energy. I can turn and look where we're going, and the more of us that keep doing that, eventually we will shift into a higher consciousness of a 5D where Earth completely changes. But in the meantime, we have to learn who we are in
Mhm.
that middle space, which can be hard because every single day we're going to be tapping back and forth in between both dimensions, and
Yeah.
you can't get stuck in that cycle. Like, if something makes you feel bad physically and mentally, there's your clue.
Yeah, it's
Look
a
the
huge
other way.
clue. Listen to your body. Like,
Mhm,
and I think that's why, I'm an occupational therapist and working with somatic engineering and working on learning the body intensively and intimately, because I think it's really important that we have to step into this understanding that when you wake up, it jolts the nervous system.
yep.
You are reliving trauma.
Mhm,
You're reliving your abandonment wounds, your self limiting beliefs, your who you thought you were,
mhm,
all of that, right? You're
mhm,
stepping into the fire and you're saying, I'm ready. I am ready to finally confront this. I'm tired of hiding. It hurts too much. My body is physically shutting down. I feel sick when I'm around this certain person, or I feel sick in
mhm,
this environment. And you're just ignoring it because you feel like you just are obligated to keep doing it. Like there's some sort of like reward at the end of the tunnel for suffering. And you're like, no, man, like listen to your body. And so that's why I like returning to the breath and doing the meditation and still points and like really
mhm,
connecting and grounding with nature, Mother Nature. Go sit by a tree, go walk, go for a nature walk,
mhm,
dance, move your body. Who cares what anyone thinks? This is so repetitive in this podcast because it's so true. It's fundamental. And the more you regulate your nervous system,
mhm,
the faster you get out of that sympathetic fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and you get into that parasympathetic rest and digest and learning how to be
yep,
and actually getting out of your survival primitive reptilian brain and
mhm,
into the prefrontal cortex where you can actually start thinking and creating and using your heart vortex
mhm,
to then that's the energy. I'm not fearful. I'm not afraid of losing. I've already lost damn near everything. I'm fine. I've already left that
right?
in the back. Like we've done this already.
Right. Yeah.
But now I'm creating from a heart space and the heart vortex is
Mhm.
1,000 times more powerful than anything else and it has more neurons in the brain,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like when
Well, and
you
the heart holds
actually
a
embody
memory. Our heart is
yeah.
our second brain.
Mhm.
So what
Your
we
gut too, your gut
r
teaches you and tells you,
Yeah.
listen to your
Yeah.
gut."
Like, there's scientific evidence if somebody has a heart transplant, they will
Mhm,
take on the same behaviors and patterns as the person that had the heart before.
mhm.
So we hold the frequency in our brain and our body. And then without reconstructing everything, the energetic parts, like what you were saying, then patterns continue to repeat. So it's like what you were saying, like the repetitiveness of what you share goes back to the truth of spirit is so simple.
So simple.
There's one answer.
Reconnect and love yourself and
Love
love all
yourself.
others.
Get back
Do
to
you
yourself.
do you think that being in the mental health space, like being an occupational therapist, we actually are rooted in mental health. Back in the war and the World War after World War One, we found out that we started doing things that gave us life, things
Yeah.
that made us feel purpose. And that's the why my discipline happens to have spirituality on that spoke of the wheel in the practice framework, which there's evidence-based practices support the use of connecting with the spirit and that meaningful side of who you are. And I think that's just what differentiates occupational therapy from physical therapy. I did a clinical rotation at the state hospital in San Antonio. And there was a lot of mentally unwell people who were walking through whether it was schizophrenia or if it was, bipolar disorder or borderline, like different kinds of conditions,
Mhm,
um, dissociative identity disorder. Do
mhm,
you feel like you said when you were 12, you got put into an institution. Do you feel
mhm,
like such a misunderstanding of what an awakened person might be going through that might make them seem like they are losing their mind or that people who are in these institutions fractured and they went too far into the 5D and they didn't
mhm.
root it back in.
Yeah.
How do you kind of walk both paths of being a spiritual person and a person in the mental health space?
Mhm. Yeah, It's interesting, when I was in the mental health field, one of the things I noticed, and I worked in several different settings. The last setting I was in was an inpatient psychiatric facility, and, what I noticed is that patients or clients would come back with the same problems over and over and over. They would get better, get released from treatment, and then 6 months to a year later come back with the same issue. And when I really started to go through my awakening and looking at the patterns in my clients and the people I was working with, I started to realize that you can't heal one part of a person. You have to heal them entirely holistically. That's the energetic field, that's the mind, that's the spirit, that's the remembering of who they are. And so what takes place, and there's so many directions to go on this as far as mental health, but I've had people come to me before and like, be in psychosis, like a
Mhm,
spiritual psychosis, and
mhm,
I would one of the first things I ask them is, like, "Have you connected with your body? Did you start with your root, or did you start with your 3rd eye and your crown?" You
yep,
know? And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, If you haven't grounded into your body and released the energy that you've held in the body, when you start to awaken spiritually, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna
mhm,
probably have psychosis. You're probably going to, I mean, I had some people that were, like, selling everything off and moving to, a hotel and, like, seeing things and hearing things, and I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 like, calm down, like, come
mhm,
back to the body. Come back to the body." Like, we have to ground this energy. You can't just
mhm,
open this frequency up because it will cause you to mentally go insane. And so as we are integrating new frequencies and energy into the human elements of who we are, mental health has to shift to understand the difference between somebody having an awakening and somebody having a psychosis episode, or somebody struggling with, which in some case I think everything is spiritual, but we won't go there. um Everything is a symptom of something.
mhm,
Like, there are people that have come into the earth to purposely have some kind of a diagnosis to learn from it, but there are everything is still comes back to the spirit realm, like, everything's
mhm,
spirit. And so when you have trauma in your past and you go through an awakening, that root chakra and the sacral chakra, like, your lower chakras are connected to your human body. When you hit your heart chakra and you move to the higher chakras, this is all your spiritual connection. So if it's as above, so below. What you have in your body is what you're gonna manifest into your reality. And
mhm,
so if you don't combine both of it, the energy work and the work on your mind, then you're gonna be off balance. And so it's so interesting to watch. I'm friends with some therapists, and just because I was around it for so long, I can see the transition and how they work with their clients, and they're becoming a little bit more intuitive about when somebody comes in with an issue, instead of just diagnosing them and saying, "Oh, you have this disorder." Because when we diagnose somebody, they pull that identity in there and they think, "Oh, well,
mhm,
I have anxiety, or I have this, that I have schizophrenia, or I have whatever it could be." It could be on any scale. And then once you start to tell yourself a story, that story gets caught up in your body. Then you start to manifest experiences based on the anxiety or the fear or the OCD or whatever it is that you got diagnosed with. And so it's not that in some aspects having mental health diagnosis can't be helpful,
mhm,
but we have to be careful about labeling and identifying with labels,
mhm,
because then we take away our power. We give it to a system outside of ourselves. And part of this collapse that we're going through is the health system. I mean, this is really rough for a lot of people. And unfortunately, from the human perspective, there are going to be a lot of people shifting off the earth that are not here to continue moving forward in new earth. And they're probably going to fight against some of the systems of the mental health and the physical health symptom, insurance and all that stuff kind of coming to an end in the way it has been, because what's coming is better. We
Yeah.
can't see that now
Oh,
because we see this as, "This is against me," but
yeah.
really, when you shift your perspective of, "This is being rebuilt for me,"
Yes.
then you stop giving your power away and you realize, "Wait, I can heal myself."
Mhm.
You can go to a doctor over and over and over and ask, "What's wrong with me?" And even in the mental health field or physical, and they're like, "We don't see anything." Well,
Girl.
because it's
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is so I've talked about this on episode 2 with Tony Spossit, the TikTok history teacher, right? Like, we break it down in a way that makes sense of talking about how it's like a computer, right? If you've got a
Mhm,
processing issue, you're gonna address the processing. We got a hardware system, you're gonna
mhm,
go with the hardware. You know, it's a keyboard issue, you're gonna go with the keyboard. And, like, that makes
mhm,
sense to people. Like, I'm gonna look at the different parts of my computer, and I'm gonna address the parts of the computer that need to get fixed. But when we look at the human body, we're like, "Oh, let's just throw medicine at it. Let's
right.
just put a label on it, and let's just talk about it," versus what's actually happening is you have a body, you have a mind, and you have a spirit. And there is intentionally a system that works against those
Mhm,
natural biorhythms that you have of your circadian sleep rhythm with working too much and how
mhm,
little time we get. And then we have a lot of stress in our body, which is a lot of cortisol. We've got a lot of unnatural things that are being put in our body from the food, water, and air and the soil. And so, like, then these toxins build up in your body, so you might have a physical symptom, right? Okay,
mhm,
then you have the all of the trauma where life was too busy and you never had time to actually process anything that happened because you just had to get up tomorrow and go make that money to pay that rent. And so then you stay in this really low vibrational place where then darker energies can then infiltrate into your vibrational frequency and then cause
mhm,
more mental health conditions where you are spiraling out of control. You have over anxious thoughts. You're severely depressed. You don't want to be here anymore. Your body hurts. So you've
mhm,
got the physical pain, the emotional pain, and the mental pain and the spiritual pain.
mhm.
And you think you're the problem.
Yep.
And you're not. You're just not the problem. We're not actually looking at the fundamental reason of what's going on and why dysfunction exists in the first place. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what
Mhm,
you're trying to do. That's what other light workers are trying to do is like, hey, you're not broken.
right.
You're literally just out of tune from on purpose.
Mhm,
You know, this is by design because then you're easier to control when you're in fear. You can't really create the life of your dreams over here when you're super spiraling.
yeah.
Right? It makes sense when you can see it from the higher perspective of, oh, actually, it's going according to their plan. But like now it's time for us to create the new earth together to have collaboration, community, peace,
Mhm,
love, harmony, healing, vibrational frequency, resonance, right? Energy work, Reiki, all these different beautiful things where you're moving your body like Tai Chi, you know,
mhm,
and you're moving the energy up and around and out and you're calling back your power. You're calling back the fractals of yourself.
mhm,
Because we just give it away so easily. We're
right.
disempowered and we're like, "Oh, yeah, I've got this condition. I've got lupus, I've got endometriosis," and then now I'm, like, sicker and sicker because I'm just pulling in that label
Yep.
versus I don't have these conditions anymore, even if I do. I embody a healthy version of myself. I love myself. My body is perfect. My body is well. That's what Rosemary talks about on her episode. She cured her body from all these different ailments, as they said she'd just die from it.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
Joe Dispenza talks about
Yep.
this, where he's like, I had a
Yeah.
spinal cord injury that I didn't because I meditated
Right.
for however
Right.
many weeks.
Yeah.
The power of healing the human body,
Yeah.
we think we
Yeah.
trust the white coat more than our own intuition.
I healed my thyroid. Like, I was on thyroid medicine for over 20 something years, and I asked spirit, "Can I heal my thyroid?" And they're like, "Well, absolutely you can." But they said, "You can't do it right now because you believe you need medication. Until you
Mhm.
don't believe you need the medication, you can't heal it." And so, every single day for about 6 months, I imagined blue light around my throat and healing my thyroid. And I just kept doing that every single day. And then one day I woke up and I heard, "Today's today. You don't need it." And I just quit taking it. And that's probably been a year ago. And before, I couldn't even skip a day because I would be like dying. Your energy is so bad when your thyroid's off.
Yeah.
And so I haven't taken medication in over a year. Um,
Wow.
so
I
it's
had lupus, and I don't have lupus anymore. I was on hydroxychloroquine, and I was
yeah.
seeing rheumatology, surgery, biopsies, and blood tests all confirmed it. Now I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how powerful we are when we, bring this connection between, like, it's just convincing the computer in our head
Yep.
that we can do it and like reprogramming that.
It's so cool. I'm just so excited to talk to you. I mean, I could talk to you for hours,
I
Angie. I'm
know.
like, "Hi, spiritual soul sister. I've missed you."
Hi.
I mean, like, I have so much more I still wanna cover. That just means you have to come back on because I wanna talk about, all the different channeling. Did you have a channel that you wanted to share today? I can't remember. We talked about maybe having one.
I mean, they're always open to talking. They're
I would love to hear a channel before we have to
okay.
depart
Yeah,
today.
yeah. So let me see if there's anything particular that they want to bring through for us today. Okay. Mm, yeah, they're excited. We are eager to be with you today to express our gratitude of being able to communicate with the collective through this source. And we are excited about what is taking place in the conversations that are happening on Earth at this time. We want you to know that these kind of things do shift the consciousness of all things, even though, from your perspective, you do not see that in the linear timeline that you are in. From our perspective, we see the consciousness of humanity shifting, and we give you hope to hold the frequency of love, to hold the frequency of hope, to remember that you are divine beings living here on earth as a human. And you have help in all forms. The form of your own true self, which is what you call the higher self from your perspective, and from us, those of us that play the realm of what you call guides or support systems from other dimensions. And all of this is working together as we are just as invested into your awakening as you are in your own linear timeline awakening. As you shift in consciousness, we shift in consciousness because we are all one divine being as together, source energy projecting itself into all things. We understand that times this can become hard in your timeline and the energy in which you are perceiving. But we want to encourage you that as you remember who you are, as you shift back into the awareness and consciousness of what you have already residing within you, it naturally shifts the perspective of the reality that you live in. And over time, you will begin to see new manifestations taking forth. Trust the process. You are not behind. You are not ahead. You are exactly where you are meant to be. We love you, we support you, and we are excited to continue this journey with you. Thank
Yes. Like, just
you.
yes. Every single thing that you said is the same messages that I get. And this is the first time we've ever even, like, seen each other's faces, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly the same kinds of messages
I
I'm
love
getting
it.
right now." Where the alignment is so beautiful, like, the time is now, and there is nothing to fear. Like, we are just waking up and healing, that's all this is. Spiritual
Mhm.
awakenings are just divine healing of the body, mind, and soul, and we can't be scared of, like, learning what lies underneath all of the sticky, gooey, sad stuff that, like,
Yeah,
leaves us feeling us small, and we're actually star seeds. We're just made of light and we're here to shine. And
exactly.
we're the lighthouses. We're the lighthouses of the collective needs. No one better than another. We're all lighthouses.
Yeah.
And sometimes your light shines small and sometimes it shines really, really bright. And it's up to you to really step into the embodiment of that. And
Mhm.
I just, well, that was the message for the collective. I usually say, "Hey, is there a message for the collective?" I will say that.
There you go.
Wisdom keepers, whoever that was, stepped through, and we're just like, "Here is what they need to know."
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Oh my gosh, Angie, do you personally have anything else that you wanna share? Because I think that this has been the most dynamic conversation. I've loved every second of this convo.
Yeah, it's been so fun, and I just want people to know that there is no one's behind. Like, everything is done in the now moment, and you don't have to worry about how quickly things shift. You just have to worry about where you are right now. And the more you trust that, the more things, it actually becomes quicker, the more you stop resisting. And so, um, yeah, we're exactly where we're supposed to be.
We're exactly where we're supposed to be at every given time. I
Mhm.
love that so much. Thank you so much, Angie. Where can people find you if they feel resonated with this message?
Yeah. AngieHarris.org is my website, and TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. I'm on all of it. Soul Alignment Mentor. And I have 2 different beautiful communities that are growing. I have a healer circle and I have an ascension membership, and I channel for my community, and we get together and talk about what's happening in the world, and I teach. It's all spirit led. I don't even know what the next time we get together is going to be about. I just show up. And so if you are looking for a space that is aligned for you, I just provide one of them of the many that are out there. And wherever you feel aligned, I encourage you to get involved in something that you can connect with other light beings and people that are going through this. So you're not alone.
Perfect.
Mm.
Thank you so much. And I'll make sure I add everything in the description, below. But you are just such a bright light. And I am so excited that we finally connected. I've been
Yeah.
following you for a while and I was like, oh, I love her.
Well, I love you too. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today. And if any of this resonated, like, subscribe, follow along because each of these episodes is literally like speaking to different types of souls who need to hear it right when they need to hear it. And I'm just saying this is the time. We're waking up as a collective. There's nothing to be afraid of. You're going to see some darkness, quote unquote darkness. It's contrast. And it serves our highest and greatest good to awaken to our highest potential so we can anchor in the new earth together. And as a reminder, when I heal, you heal. When you heal, I heal. And when we all heal, we rise. And that is how we create the world we've always dreamt of. You're not alone. We're in this together. Keep going. We've got this. Bye.